you are an entrepreneur, a professional, a speaker, or a coach, and although you've come a long way, it's time for you to take it to the next level. We've got you. This is the Author to Authority podcast. We'll help you use authority and influencer marketing to build your business stronger and faster by publishing a book. You'll hear from guests that are thought leaders in sales, marketing, networking, communication, social media, promotion, and business leadership. Let's do it. This is the Author to Authority podcast. And now your host, the extraordinary word ninja, Kim Thompson-Pinder.
Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today my voice is low and deep and a bit on the rough side, so I think I'm going to let today's guest do most of the talking. Anyway, Vinnie is an Emmy Award-winning media advisor who helps clients leverage their media exposure, find fame, and make impact. Vinnie is the editor-in-chief of I Have a Podcast and is responsible for discovering and amplifying the voice of independent podcasters worldwide. And today we're going to talk about how to make it so that people, but even potential clients, can find you. So welcome to the show, Vinnie.
Thank you for having me. They're so funny with the last name, Postestivo. Vinnie, like I say that like it's so difficult, Vinnie Postestivo.
I was thinking Postestivo.
Postestivo. Yeah.
That's another way of saying it again.
In my family, they do the syllables, the Postestivo, like the hand kind of gets going on with it. I used to think that was like the Italian dialect, but that's really the Staten Island dialect coming out. But I'm born and raised here in New York. I stayed in New York my entire creative career. I'm here in Brooklyn now, and I'm still like not a lot of Vinnies out here in this world. It was just so strange. But if anyone knows any Vinnies out there, please make the introduction. This is like a Vinnie to Vinnie out there. This is how I use the law of attraction. I'm telling you what I'm looking for. I want to meet another Vinnie. For some reason, I feel called to say that.
Believe it or not, I have met very few Kims in my lifetime.
How about that?
I had a best friend named Kim when I was little. Have not met many Kims in years, and then just moved to a new area and I've met one.
Oh, wow. Is there a difference between Kims and Kimberlys? Is there a conversation to be had about that?
Generally, most people, their parents name them Kimberly and everyone calls them Kim. My parents went, well, since everyone's going to call me Kim, why name me Kimberly? So they just named me Kim, but everyone assumes that I'm a Kimberly.
I have a friend whose name is Burley, and she went the other direction. So they, took matters into their hands, and they helped make a decision, point you in a direction that they felt was best for you. God bless them. So much in a name, by the way. My name is Vinnie, Vinnie. I changed the spelling of my name when I got to college. For me, it was like a moment to, well, first off, my father and I have the same name. So Vinnie with an IE shortened. And someone told me that IE in Italian and French, I believe, is sort of feminine. So I thought that was really cool as a gay man who at a point in time in society didn't have the rights that I currently have now, where I can kind of throw out a little secret rainbow flag to people who knew, if they knew what they knew, then they would see it. And it's sort of been, so much goes in the name, so much so that when I left MTV, or even before I got to MTV, I started my company and it was Vinnie Postestivo Entertainment. So putting my name on something that I create is a part of the responsibility of being a creator. I think that's a big part of how I've been able to do what I do for such a long time.
Well, I think you need to be able to own who you are. If you're going to stand out, I mean, in today's world, it's whatever name you choose, but you want to own your name and own who you are and be proud and be confident in that. And if you aren't, it comes across. And I think that will tie in with today's topic. But tell me, how did you come to be the editor-in-chief of I Have a Podcast?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've just have a career obsession with launching talent, finding talent. In the late 90s, I started my own database while in college. That database helped me launch projects for Fox News and MTV News. And I stayed at MTV News and then MTV for 10 years. And I got to usher in all the modern storytellers who needed to tell their story through television to get an audience. People like Ashton Kutcher and Sharon Osbourne and Diddy and Jessica Simpson and Ashley Simpson, like impactful solopreneurs, really, to be honest. If you look at the construct of an artist, a solopreneur or a small business owner, a founder-led business owner who is the face of their brand. And I've had that experience since the late 90s. you said something at the top of this podcast that was like, it was eye-opening to me. You said we can own it. There's so much to be said about ownership, and there's so much to be said about the ability, especially as podcasters, that we have to own our own content now. The one thing we have in common is we make content. The one thing you don't have in common with Nick Cannon from Wild 'N Out or Jessica Simpson from Newlyweds is you own your show. They don't own their show. There's power in that. I bet they would have launched. By the way, that's why celebrities are launching podcasts and digital series, so they can leverage exactly as you said. So that you have to own, first off, you have to own it so that you can leverage it in the marketplace. And leveraging it can be collaborating. It can be collaborating on a creative level. It can be, on a business level. I just believe that small businesses have such power and control over how we treat each other. Now that creative properties can be owned by small business owners, especially podcasts, I know how to leverage podcast into broadcast, into terrestrial and satellite and digital radio. I know how to help business owners stand out and help them get discovered, not by making them more visible, but by making them more shareable, by making them more talked about, by giving them more authority, by helping them win awards, showing them where to take and give and get credits. Ways to distribute content that they're not thinking about if social media is the only platforms they're looking to amplify content. And I know this because this is the work that I have to do on the TV network side of talent, to get talent approved by the networks, to get the shows that they've gone and done. And when I realized I could just be a steward to us and not have to go through to be blessed that I got to work at MTV, first off, when youth culture watched that network in the late, in the late 90s, where I was there when news was made and happened. And like in New York, that usually happens at like 2 to 4 in the morning. It was really nice to have it happen at 3:30. And I leveraged that. I didn't know I was doing it. Here's my thing. I didn't know a single person in this industry when I started. I didn't intern to get in. I didn't have anything right about it, except I just loved meeting people and I organized that information. I stayed in touch with them. It wasn't just about meeting. It was about connecting, bringing them opportunities. And I'm doing the same thing for podcasters. I said I launched my business in 98 from my dorm room with a database of talent. And I'm doing the same exact thing with I Have a Podcast. And I Have a Podcast features featured podcasters, featured podcasts, independent podcasts. And ultimately, I'd love it to turn into Goop. If you really want to know my secret strategy here, like if I could be like a LinkedIn for creator news, platform meets Goop. But if you ask me, I think this time next year or whenever if you're listening to this then, and this is now in the past, I have a prediction. I think that every brand is going to be a podcast directory. Like the directories are pass-throughs. There's no file stored in a directory. It's just data and information. The ping pong, it's just data that sort of talks to each other. I can see CVS, I can see Bravo, I can see the New York Yankees, I can see Disney, I can see so many brands just opening up the ability to organize, to help independent voices get discovered. And what they'll do by giving them those stages is they'll give them unique access to their talent and to properties. And
well, one thing that I had recently gotten an email from YouTube is that they've hired someone very high up. And I suspect within probably the next year or two, we're going to see YouTube podcasts. Now, whether that's video, audio, I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm watching that really closely because as soon as that kind of launches, I want to be in on that. But I want to go back for a moment to something you said, and you talked about visibility. And one of the things I teach about authority marketing. And in the beginning, I teach it's about getting visible. But you are right. If you want to go big, at some point, you've got to get into that promotion, the medias. You've got to be able to get yourself out there. But one of the things I teach is that in the beginning, just get yourself visible. Just get yourself seen. You grow it to the point where you're so seen that now media wants you, right? And one thing I feel about social media is it's a place of social proof because that someone's going to check you out on social media, especially if you're not a huge name brand. If someone's just checking you out one of the places. So for me, social media is about creating that social proof so that when someone goes and checks me out, it's not about creating huge audiences, though, you network, you build connections on social media. But for me, it's about the social proof so that when someone checks me out, I'm visible. I'm seen. They can go check out my LinkedIn and see that I'm very strong on there. And it creates that impression. And so I agree with you that, visibility's I think in the beginning, visibility is good, but there hits a point where visibility is just not enough.
Oh, you're like speaking to my soul. You're giving me goosebumps. There was a point in time 20, 25 years ago where no press was bad press, right? I'm going to go back to this word of ownership that you threw into this vocabulary, which I love, because sometimes I say we have control over how we get discovered. We have ownership.
Yeah.
We have the ability to have ownership over when, where, how, and with whom we get discovered, by being in which room, by talking about, by supporting, by aligning, by moving. And you're right, more visibility. Look, I can connect this to the celebrity side of things. You know, there's oversaturation. There's a point where they're just everywhere. I just see them everywhere. To me, that point is where they've no longer shared that experience, and they can no longer share that experience because sharing their visibility is no longer valuable to them. In the ego, there's two things happening in the ego. One, it's serving. I've discovered you. I can find you and I can connect you with everybody. But now if everybody can see you, I start to feel foolish almost. So I stop talking about you because everyone can see you. Everyone has access to you. And I now don't feel unique or special, empowered to speak up. So this is you just, oh my gosh, Kim, when I talk about the alchemy changes, like the future of every episode, this one is going to be one I listen to over and over again. This word ownership is like so powerful.
The reason why I call myself the extraordinary word niche, I'm pretty good.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, be impeccable in your speech is one of the. You're absolutely right. That's like what a blessing. By the way, that's really cool. That's a really cool trick you got there.
The thing was, when I first started, I fell into publishing. As a kid, I was told by a teacher I should never write. I carried those words for 30 years.
Me too.
2012, I decided I was in network marketing. I was in the MLMs. I decided to write books to teach people how to sell, how to recruit, how to build a team, and how to keep yourself motivated. And I decided to publish those on Amazon because it was an easy platform for me to share those books out to not only my team, but other people in my company. That was the goal. And that's what I did. I didn't really have any goals beyond that. And, I sold some books and, I got, people got to know me a bit. But in 2015, I fell into ghostwriting to help pay for my son's wedding. And within a year, I am now running a publishing company. Yes. And I realized quickly, one of the things was the area I lived in, there was already a very well-known hybrid publisher that everybody went with. So I needed to differentiate myself. And one of the ways I did that is I came up with the Extraordinary Word Ninja. And that took about a year and a half before, I really found the title that I could own and make it mine. But once I did and I started using it, and I mean, this is something very simple that everyone can do, right? You can give yourself a unique title. Now, like I said, it took a year and a half for me to figure out what the title was. But once I did, I became memorable because people won't remember my name, but they'll remember that I'm a publisher and they'll remember that I'm the Word Ninja.
I love that. Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, and he's called Mr. Wonderful. Do you know why he calls himself Mr. Wonderful?
No, I don't.
Because no one else would. And he says it. Isn't that the most brilliant framing? Like it truly is, or is empowering, own the ability. See, I'm scarred a little bit from being a corporate creative in the 90s and early 2000s where IP was handed over. Any .com idea I had was owned by MTV. Any idea that I had was owned by MTV Network. The SOPs that I created to launch the networks globally are owned. That's the name of the American business. And you hear this, by the way, and I say American because it's very specific to the States. Yeah. This relationship between creator and IP is such. Going back to discoverability equals visibility. If you want more discoverability, the power of sharing is going to help you break through that glass. To me, it's the power of sharing. It's visibility to the power of sharing, not times. It's not as soft as that. If I have the ability to sell 50 hats that are limited edition, as silly as that may sound, or if I give away one hat a week to my podcast guests, next time I go up to a podcast convention, if maybe even two of us happen to have the same hat, that opportunity for visibility and connection, that shared experience, it's something that allows them to share the experience, the merch, the stories. Yeah. And if you want to ask me what's the most valuable share? contacts. That to me, networking, that to me gets
Yeah.
into the most valuable share where, for example, if you love what you're hearing, and I certainly will do this, and if you want to see if I'm a good writer, then you go ahead and check out the 5-star review that I'm going to leave you for this podcast. And I urge people to join me, by the way. Please join me in the 5-star review club. Let's use our words to just express the gratitude and acknowledge the power that we have now as creators. And again, as creators by way of being creative skills and natural born talent, but also by way of trade and technology, businesses that have to use social media, that have to demonstrate a product on QVC, that have to, or Amazon, or, have this ability to, get content out there. And can I share, because you talk about, being a wordsmith, by the way. I recently, I imagine
word ninja. Got to get it
word
right.
ninja. I'm sorry, word ninja.
Yes, go ahead,
every
Vinnie.
episode gets some type of supportive blog article, blog post. I took my blog RSS and went over to Google News Publisher, and I got my RSS approved by Google News. So now I'm listed as an approved source on Google News. And I'm seeing other websites take my featured podcaster RSS, featured podcast RSS, my I have a podcast episodes RSS, and I'm seeing those pop up on other websites now that provide amazing link back and exposure for me. But that's just one of the ways that I realize that I have to make myself easier to share. This is like it. If I want people to share, I got to come up with the link. If I want people to share, I have to have the 15-second ad. If the reason why people aren't sharing your 15-second ad is because you don't have one, that's a simple fix. It's okay. It all happens.
So talk about that, because I don't have a 15-second ad.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit more, and talk about the sharing aspect. Because you say share, but what do you mean by that? Like, you're talking about being shareable. So go into that a bit more, because I think that is really important. And I think that's something that, especially entrepreneurs who are looking to brand themselves, that's the key element that they're missing. They know they need to share, but they don't know how to share.
Yeah. For me, if there was one metric that I could, keep visible for my entire career, share is the one thing on social media, share of voice, percentage of and share of voice in the marketplace. These are the sharing is a tremendous value. What I mean is being easier to be shared. For example, we might have YouTube channels. And on our YouTube channels, we may have lots of videos. But if you don't have a playlist, then I can't share your playlist onto my YouTube channel. So by you not creating a playlist because you think it's easier for everyone just to see all the videos, it actually prohibits me from being able to take a permanent feed from your YouTube, which is like, let's talk about the power of, video exposure. And I agree with you. Like, what they're doing with podcasting is very, very exciting. Also, you don't have to wait for it to happen. Pinterest TV just launched. If you've been creating like vertical social media content for Instagram or Shorts, here's another place where you can go put it on Pinterest TV. And the coolest part is that it's tappable, shoppable, interactive media. It's evergreen, always on. You sort of schedule it, and it releases in bundles, and then it stays on forever, as opposed to YouTube, where you can just kind of put it up instantly and then have instant access. There is an event that sort of happens with it, but if you have a product to sell, if you have maybe a free giveaway that you want to, you talk about, a resource that you talk about in a podcast, this can now be another engaging, interactive way to move that. So, but that being said, I am excited for YouTube to get on the podcast wagon. It'll help all of us. Apple just helped us out. Apple just gave us the ability to, with the click of a button, be able to stream from our computers to our camera iPhones, because most of our iPhones have better cameras than our computers actually do.
Yes.
So now there's a seamless single button. By the way, now I can have 4K video shot for me. The power of that. We talk about differentiating. We talk about how to stand out. Maybe we'll remember 5 years ago when standard definition TV, the black bars we all had to wrestle. Do we want the black bars on the top or on the side? Or is it going to be squished? Or, 4K is coming. And with that advent will come another jump in the user experience. There will be a point in time where platforms don't accept content less than 4K. So if you're looking to invest in evergreen content, and That's my favorite type because that's earned reach value, to the nth degree. Then I recommend that. In terms of sharing, though, sharing for me is the metric I look for. That's how I know if that's my measure of value. We might even ask, I don't know if it's valuable or not. Are people sharing it?
Yeah.
It's a learn and go, sort of, approach. It's difficult to say, look at your share numbers at the top, but let me tell you this about the share numbers at the top in the single digits, where every single follower, where you get to know who they are, where you like recognize face. Like I think I talk to artists and musicians, and I'm thinking of all the times at MTV where you hear these horror stories of like, we had 10 people in the audience. That time that those artists have with that audience, that's like career defining.
Oh yeah.
Those are the people that show up for you anywhere.
Because it's not about the numbers.
It's not. It's really, it allows
that
sharing
followers.
opportunity. Yeah.
You could have 1 million followers and have butt kiss. I can't remember what book it was, but I was reading a book and it was talking about the fact that if you had 1,000 loyal followers, you're set for life.
Yeah.
Even 100 loyal followers will make your business huge.
Oh yeah.
Because these are your brand ambassadors. These are 100 people who are saying, Vinnie is the top person and I will not work with anybody else but.
Yeah. And they empower you. They empower you to be the best possible version too, which is the exciting. And that's actually something I love. You asked, why am I kind of focused on this indie side of, that's why I do this on our side, on the non-corporate side, where decisions are made between people, not behind closed doors. And I think I really like that approach to creating content. And that being said, I know how to get content shared. One of the ways to get your content shared is to win awards, and you don't only have one shot in your lifetime to win an award. You have an annual shot. Tonys, Emmys, there's a schedule. So once you figure out, by the way, everything I'm talking about, I have documentation steps on how to win awards on my website. So I'm very happy to make sure people, know that. But I've identified over 100 awards that I don't think most people that are in the social media podcasting space, are aware of. Whether you're a marketing, you have a newsletter, a website, you're a podcaster like me, being like a guest. I don't even have a podcast to be a podcast guest, and being a podcast guest qualifies me for certain awards too. So like to have a podcast, to win a podcast award, what a great strategy for business owners out there to get inspired. The seat is hot. Come take my seat after me. The seat is hot. I'll tell you now. It's awesome being a guest. I think of, like very traditional holidays. It's a lot of work. I show up with a plate. I make sure I have value. I do my research. I know what the kids are doing. I got everyone's names right. and I get to show up in the best way possible and connect, as opposed to being afraid of the questions that are coming my way. I get to show up and as you say, have ownership in who I am. And with that, it comes the ability to collaborate at a clear level where my content strategy is my life. It's weird to say this, but it's my life strategy. I don't worry about at the end, did I say the right word? Did I say the right words at the end before I tell Google? Are you kidding me? I'm not going to edit my life so that I have to think about what Google thinks. By the way, Google is hot shit now, but like it's going to have its time. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be a point in time.
Everything has its time. There's going to be something new that comes out, and eventually Google will be gone.
Knowledge panels and all that. We're obsessed with how we show up in Google, and I respect it. Again, it's all about discovery. So how you present in discovery mode is important. But this is why, Kim, I said earlier with this RSS blog feed that I figured out. Once I went to Google, then I went to Bing PubHub, Yahoo, and it was automatically published to Yahoo News. I got it on Flipbook. I'm able to get it. Apple News is a little tricky. You have to be a publisher to be able to publish, but I can imagine the rewards that are there. And then LinkedIn has this feature called Mint, mentioned in the news, and it's AI, and it lives in the feed of LinkedIn. And if one of your friends is mentioned in the news, then it will actually alert you in the feed that so-and-so was mentioned in the news, and it'll link to an external article. So I did some research and found about like 30 websites that I know LinkedIn is definitely scrubbing to get that information. And some of them are really niche, some of them are like beverage industry websites. And I bring that up because think of a way to get on the beverage website if you can't get, and it's all about standing out. Imagine how we can all stand out on a beverage website right now. Think about the ways that we can collaborate with a beverage, find a way to stand out. And I'm telling you that is one of the ways that LinkedIn will then trigger the ability to share that something that happens outside of social media, share with your audience inside social media. So the reason why I am the editor-in-chief of ihaveapodcast.com is there was no website that was focused on podcasters. A lot of podcast conversations, but for us to get verified on social media, we need our name in the top of the H1 header news, and it needs to be about us, not about our podcast, not a listicle, not 150, 30 or 30, 60 over 6. None of that helps when it comes to getting verified. So I took the steps as much as I could as an indie publisher to set podcasters up with something I felt would be really valuable. And I say that based on the fact that when I work with my clients one-on-one, that's usually the first thing I'm focusing on anyway is share a voice. So I'm making sure your voice is getting shared, and I'm making sure the amount of your voice in your industry is relative, and that's measured through the news. And these are the ways that these platforms now measure your ability to get verified, depending on the territory that you live in, because news saturation is different for different territories. So, theoretically, it's easier to get verified in a smaller country with less press because there isn't as much saturation as there is here, specifically in America. So, but some people figured out a way around that. So don't pay to pretend like you're there. You can pay to pretend like you're in a different country. They'll get you. So I'm here to help you stand out. That's my thing, is like, I don't work with celebrities. I work with people who are called to do great things in life. Some of them might be celebrities, but they're still seeking discoverability and visibility. Just for their actions, not for their projects. That's it's the same thing. And it's the same game. Just the prices are, when you apply for an Emmy, it's like $1,800 for your application fee. When I apply for a W3 award, it's usually, I think under $100, and then $250 for the award if I win, but it's expensive. I get it. But all awards have a process. They're institutions, they're or academies, actually. Again, no foul there. And if there's anything I can do,
they're not just there to hand out awards, they're there to make money.
They're there to make money, but we're here to leverage it. So by the way, I take that award just last month. IMDb, the Internet Movie Database. So we were talking about visibility. Let's talk about credits. Credits are a killer way for more visibility. So credits on the Internet Movie Database, imdb.com. That's where you go to see your TV and film. Podcasts are an approved intellectual property, a form of intellectual property that can receive credits as of a couple of years ago. So this is a data point that Google most likely doesn't know about your podcast. You as the owner of your podcast and producer, and your entire team now gets credit. You have the ability to give them credit. All of your guests are connected to your episode too. It's a data point that does not exist on any Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Anchor. There's no platform that will give Google this, or Bing, or search engines this type of information, this amount of link backs. Is, in digital world, link backs are proof that someone has shared us. That's like a breadcrumb that says this person has shared me. And that's I know that in sharing them, they successfully are pushing people in my direction. So those link backs are powerful for discoverability. I promise, this is a real promise. You can go to my website. You don't have to pay anything. It's right there in my Creator Hub. It's called How to Get Your Podcast on IMDb, because I'm so excited about this for all y'all to be in my world. Like in TV, every single show, every appearance, everything I've ever done is on that network, on that platform. That's where the industry goes to look. That's like social proof for creators, where LinkedIn might be our business proof for people outside of the creative world. And now we've got a way to get business owners on IMDb. You know what that leads to? Local news producers looking for experts who can speak about law and baking and all the things that happen in lifestyle. It's a tremendous ability to be in a talent pool. You also get to connect your awards. So there's a data point between you and your awards. If you are a creator, I hope you have some type of LLC, some type of production output. A lot of us independent creators don't think of ourselves as production companies yet. If you read anything about the Mr. Beasts or any of the creators on YouTube, you'll see what I'm talking about. But we will have our time where we will need to, for the sake of ownership, make sure that we're constructed the way so that we can do licensing and aggregation and syndication and advanced levels of distribution with our content, which is really where
you create the companies. So there's several different things I've done. I've got my personal brand, Kim Thompson Pinner, the Extraordinary Word Ninja. My company is RTI Publishing, but my branding point is author to authority within within the RTI publishing company. So,
Mhm.
you can have all of those different things, but the company is the legal entity under which all of these things can exist and move and breathe and be protected.
Yep. Yeah, I'm similar. I'm VPE TV, and then I'm Vinnie Postestivo, obviously, and then in between us is I Have a Podcast, which I spent like I think I don't know $1,600 to get it registered.
Mhm.
So now I'm really leaning into that
Mhm.
trademark and moving it quickly. So
I hate to do this, but we are
and so
over
it
time.
is.
We
And
could
so it
continue
is.
talking for so long. So you did just quickly mention your website, but if people have heard this and they are interested in connecting with you, how can they get a hold of you? How can they find out more about you and what you do?
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm on LinkedIn, Vinnie Postestivo. Look to these show notes for my social media info, but I do respond quickly on LinkedIn. VPE.tv is my website, and ihaveapodcast.com is the platform we've been talking about. If anyone out there knows of a podcaster or is a podcaster who deserves a little shine, I've got a very crystal clear button that says click here to submit your interview, and I cannot wait to meet you and elevate these voices. Thank you, Kim, so much for this.
You're so welcome, Vinnie. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Well, audience, it's that time again. It's time to say adieu, and we will be back on the next episode of the Author to Authority podcast. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye now.
You've been listening to the Author to Authority podcast. The extraordinary word ninja, Kim Thompson Pinder, has helped over 200 entrepreneurs, professionals, speakers, and coaches write and publish their books that have become incredible marketing tools for their business. And many of those have gone on to become Amazon best-selling authors and have used their books to land high-level clients and get on big stages. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at www.authortoauthoritypodcast.com. See you next time.